I was 35 when I got diagnosed with ADHD. By that point, I had already barely made it through high school. I had already spent years working at jobs that I hated, bouncing between them, never really understanding why I couldn't just stick with something. I did eventually find a way to turn things around. I went to a coding boot camp, 12 weeks. And that worked because 12 weeks was the right schedule for my brain. Going back to school for 4 years would have ended in complete failure. I am convinced of it. I know that now. But at the time, I didn't know any of this. I just thought I was a little lazy, had interests that changed like the phases of the moon, and well, sometimes I just sucked at life. Then I got the diagnosis. And I wasn't stoked about it. I was confused. Initially, I refused medication. I just felt kind of numb. Like, okay, so there's a name for it. I'm not a special little butterfly, but like now what? And then I remember I was watching Hard Knocks and I saw this interview with an NFL player who had been diagnosed with ADHD later in life. And he said something that I couldn't stop thinking about. He said that the diagnosis helped him understand what was wrong with his brain and that medication really helped him become a better husband, father, NFL player because he finally understood the way that his brain worked and he had something to do with his brain to make it work the way he wanted. I sat with that for a long time. But this video isn't really about that part of the story. This video is about what happened when AI showed up in my life and why I think for people with ADHD specifically, it hits different than it does for everyone else. So here's what nobody really talks about with ADHD. It's not what your brain doesn't do or doesn't work. It's that it works differently. And most of the systems the world has designed for productivity were built for a brain that isn't yours. Time blocking, to-do list, project management software, Pomodoro timers, nested subtasks, color-coded priority levels. I've tried it all. I've paid for it all. I've started all of it with enormous enthusiasm at 10 p.m. on a Sunday night and abandoned all of it by Wednesday. The amount of journals that I've personally bought that sit empty or with 2 pages filled to get my life on track, that number is very, very large. The amount of times that I've started posting on this YouTube channel and dropped it, more than one. The core problem with ADHD is that I didn't fully understand this until after my diagnosis. It's executive function. Your brain struggles with initiating tasks, maintaining context, switching between things without losing the thread, and making decisions when there are too many options. It's not a motivation problem. It's not a discipline problem. It's a start problem or a start and never finish problem. And where was I problem? And then AI arrived and I realized something pretty quickly. AI tools are almost perfectly designed to be used for exactly those problems. The single hardest thing for an ADHD brain to do is usually starting something from nothing, a blank page. It's just intimidating. For a lot of us, it's genuinely paralyzing and there's no edge to grab onto, no momentum to borrow. It's just white space and the sound of your own brain refusing to capitulate. Or there's white space and you fill it up for 12 hours and then you drop it. So what does AI do? And this sounds almost too simple. It eliminates that blank page. I don't have to generate from nothing anymore. I give Claude a messy half thought and it gives me something back. I'm really good at generating messy half thoughts. And it's something that I can react to, something I can push back on, something I can say, no, not like that, more like this. And I'm reacting to something that my brain can do all day. There's actually research on this, the idea that AI acts as external cognitive scaffolding for people with executive function challenges. I'll probably do a deeper dive on the science in a follow-up video, but the short version is researchers are finding that AI tools help ADHD brains specifically because they externalize the work of starting, organizing, and maintaining context. The thing my brain struggles with the most. Here's one that I don't hear people talk about enough, context switching. If you have ADHD, you know what I mean. You're working on something, you get interrupted by my kid, a notification, a completely unrelated thought that suddenly feels very urgent. And when you come back to what you were doing, it's just gone. Not the work. The work is still there, but the mental state you are in to do the work. I mean, it's not uncommon for me to drive all the way to a store to pick one thing up, get to the store, and completely forget the thing that I just went to the store for. That is genuinely the way my brain can dysfunction. But it also happens at work. And what I do now, and this has genuinely changed how I work, is I keep a running Claude conversation for anything I'm working on over multiple sessions. Before I stop, I dump everything into it. Where I am, what I was thinking, what the next problem is, what I was about to do before I got interrupted. And when I come back, I can simply ask Claude to catch me back up to where we left off. Even if it's 2 days later, even if it's a month later. Where were we? 30 seconds later, I'm back. For a brain that loses context constantly, having an AI that never loses context is, well, it's actually kind of emotional the first time it works the way you need it to. Another thing, ADHD and decision paralysis are best friends. Too many options, brain shuts down. Or too many options, brain goes into only research mode, not decision mode. Open-ended questions with no constraint, brain shuts down. Task that requires 10 decisions before you can even start the actual task, brain shuts down. I used to do this thing where I'd sit down to write an email, like a simple professional email that should take 30 seconds to respond to, and I'd spend 45 minutes staring at it because I couldn't figure out the right tone, the right length, correct punctuation, the right way to sign off. I don't know how to say this thing. How can I even start? An email, a Slack message, a way to respond to just say thank you, where thank you would have been sufficient, but then I'm going to go over 47 options about how I should actually write this really simple response. Now I can just ask Claude to read it over if I'm worried that it's going to come across the right way, or I can ask it to draft up an email that I can change to my personal brand and then ask if it's okay. 30 seconds, I have a draft. Change some words, change the way that it sounds a little bit, ask Claude if it's still okay for the context that I'm in. Boom, email sent. You know how your brain, if you have ADHD, you know how your brain works really well at completely inconvenient times, like 2 a.m. or the right before you're supposed to be somewhere. In the shower, maybe, when you have no way to write anything down. For years, I would have these moments of clarity where I'd figure out all of the world's problems that I'd been stuck on for a week. And by the time I sat down at my desk the next morning, they were just gone, evaporated into the ether. I now have a standing instruction in my Claude setup. If I come in with a brain dump at any hour, just receive it, organize it, and hold it for me. No judgment. It's just an AI, so there's no judgment. No need to explain, no need to push back. Just catch what I throw. And this may sound like a small thing, but it's not a small thing. I can now dump my 2 a.m. shower thoughts into Claude and have a place to come back to push back on, to reorganize. I want to be honest about something though. AI doesn't fix ADHD. I still lose things. I still hyperfocus on the wrong stuff at the wrong time. I still sometimes spend 2 hours on the part of a project that needed 20 minutes or 30 seconds and avoid the parts that need 2 hours. I have 47 different novel ideas in Claude right now because, ADHD things. But what it changed is the cost of those things. When I lose context, I can get back faster. When I can't start, I have something to react to. When I have too many decisions or too much research to do, I have something to narrow them down in time. It didn't rewire my brain. It just reduced the friction at exactly the points where my brain creates the most. For me, years after a diagnosis and years after starting medication, it made a lot of things make sense. That's been enough to change how I work and maybe how I show up a little bit. Like I said, there's a growing body of research on AI and ADHD. I want to dig into it in follow-up videos for sure, but specifically around my use case, my flavor of ADHD. I don't know what the science will say in 10 or 15 or 20 years, but I definitely know that it's helping me now. So if that's something that you want to see, if you want to know how I use AI, not just through the context of ADHD, that's what I do here. I use AI in my day-to-day work, in my day-to-day life, and I also deploy AI systems for customers. So I would love to have you stick around. My name is Aaron. Feel free to hit that subscribe button. Leave your comments, thoughts below. How has AI helped or hurt you in your current journey with whatever you're struggling with? I'd love to hear from you. Peace.